Welcome to Warehouse Women, a podcast where we talk about commercial real estate, building businesses, and passive income, but most importantly, turning barriers into strengths. Hey friends, so today I want to talk to you about a few things that you need to know if you're getting involved in any fund or syndication or any type of passive investment. There are class structures, fee structures, and capital transaction events and waterfalls. You need to know what all of these terms are and what is typical and what is atypical for any type of investment. Now, every investment is its own entity, and you should look at it for its merits within the documents that they give you, as well as looking at the operator. But it's really important to know that these fees exist. And if they aren't very clearly and transparently portrayed, you need to make sure that you're asking for where these fees are, how much they are, what it covers. Okay, so let's start with fee structures. Fees are very important for any operator putting a deal together. That's kind of how they stay in business, and that's how they make sure that they will continue to exist to serve you and to serve the business plan. So making sure that they are taking fair fees is very important, because that is how you're going to make sure that they are underwriting the deal to make sure that they have covered all three steps. One, to make sure the asset itself does well. Two, to make sure the investors get their money back. And three, most importantly, that they stay in business so that they can serve their investors. So one type of fee that operators usually take is an acquisition fee. An acquisition fee is a one-time flat fee paid to the manager or the operator of the purchase price. Usually 2 to 3%, sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends on the deal, but in that range. Another type of fee is a development fee. It is also a one-time flat fee paid to the manager or operator of the development costs. Can be anywhere between 6 to 10%. And it does not include the general contractor fee. That will be within the actual construction cost itself. This is just the fees that are going to the operator. So a one-time flat fee paid to the manager or operator of the development costs. So for example, if it's going to cost $500,000 to renovate a building, it's going to be 8% of that. And if that building cost $1 million to purchase, 3% of that goes to the acquisition fee. So another fee that is charged is an asset management fee. An asset management fee is a percentage of gross revenues paid to the manager or operator on a monthly basis. So this is a recurring fee every month. Usually about 2% is a good estimate of where you are. This is not a property management fee. Property managers, and that cost is usually built into the business plan. But the 2% asset management fee ensures that all the business plans are running well, that the property managers are managed properly, and that the asset itself is always serving the best possible tenants it can, so you can get the most money from the space that you have. So that is what the purpose of an asset management fee is, how much it typically is, and how often it gets paid. And finally, a capital transaction fee is a percentage of the sales price of each property upon disposition, and if applicable, of the new loan amount on the refinance of each property. I know that's a mouthful. Basically, a capital transaction fee is around 2%, usually, give or take a percent or two, but it occurs at the disposition of the property, meaning it occurs at the sale or the refinance of the property, and that's when that fee is charged. That is all the effort it takes to either put it on the market and sell it, or to get all the paperwork ready for the bank and put all the information needed, as well as any loan holders or note holders information to the property for the refinance. So that is what the capital transaction fee is for. Now, there can be more fees. There can be less fees. These are the basic ones you should be seeing in every fund or syndication. So bear that in mind. So the next thing you need to know about is a class structure. Basically, a class structure is how the different investors can come into a investment opportunity. Usually it's divided by how much money you're bringing in. So say if someone is bringing in 25,000, 50,000, 100,000 or $1 million, they will have different preferred returns based on the volume they're contributing and or other perks rather than just preferred returns. It just depends on how it is set up. This is something that they will tell you ahead of time, and you will be able to decide where you want to come into an investment based on the structure that exists. Within the class structure, you will get a percentage of returns. Usually it's like 70% goes to the investors, 30% to the operator or the general partner. So for example, a class structure would look like A1 investors or class A1 investors get an 8% preferred return and a 70-30 split until the capital transaction event. Whereas the class A2 investors who come in at a lower amount get a 6% preferred with a 70-30 split until the capital transaction event. So that's kind of how a class structure looks like. Feel free to message me if you want to know more about class structures and what they mean. But moving on to the capital transaction event. What is that? A capital transaction event is when a change occurs in how returns are split between the general partner and the limited partners. In other words, between the investor and the operator. Usually until the investor gets at least 100% of their money back, their initial investment back, they should have returns skewed in their favor. If that's not the case, I would double check the investment opportunity very carefully. Before you get your entire initial investment back as a limited partner, as an investor, you should have some kind of way to make sure that the operator is aligned with your incentives. So you should be getting either a larger preferred return, or if you're not getting a preferred, you should be getting a larger percentage, like 70% instead of 50%. Right? But once you have minimum your investment back, usually investors and operators agree to a minimum investment back plus a certain amount. For example, like 120%. Once you have that back, then a capital transaction event has occurred, meaning you've gotten your 100% plus back, and then the percentage shares switches. Oftentimes that capital transaction event is the sale of the property or the event that pushes investors out. So for example, if you're in a investment that is expecting a 20% IRR within 5 to 7 years, at that point they sell the property and give the investors their money back, and that is a capital transaction event, at which point you are no longer in the deal. But you have gotten your money back and your 20% IRR or internal rate of return, or whatever you have expected based on your involvement in the deal. Other times, if the operator chooses to refinance it, most operators still will kick you out after you hit a certain percentage, say 120 or 150% cumulative cash on cash. You're then out from the investment because you've gotten your money back plus a return over a certain time period, as was initially expected when they proposed the project or the deal to you. But another option can be, and I have seen deals where after the capital transaction event, instead of kicking out the investor, it switches to a 50-50. So there are no more preferred returns, and any distributions that are made, 50% goes to the investors and 50% goes to the general partner. So that is what a capital transaction event is. It's usually when you're getting most of your money back and the events that are happening around it and the changes in the structure of the deal that happen when this capital transaction event occurs. So, to recap, know what fees are being charged by the deal maker, know what the structure is and where you fall in it, and know when the structure will change. I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next week. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, and I'll see you next week.